This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast revisiting television sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between. This week, Sleepwalkers, episodes 3 and 7.
Mrs. Maxwell, I know that you're upset.
I should have known that you'd be just like the rest of them. You just want to pawn this off on my disease.
Actually, we'd like to help you.
Then help me. My husband wants to kill me, and no one believes me.
I believe that dreams are answers to questions we're afraid to ask. And those answers are often more symbolic than literal. Your dreams are trying to tell you something important, and we have to figure out what it is they're saying.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast that plays in traffic. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
I'm going to swallow you up.
Oh.
Didn't it make you sort of cringe a little bit when you heard that line?
I mean, this show loves to make me cringe, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's getting grosser.
It has a real problem where it's just like, it feels like these are all first drafts of ideas, but like the one thing they've committed to is like, it needs to be a little creepy for everybody.
I do think there's something about the late 90s, early 2000s where there was this desire for edginess, and it always comes off on people kind of making off-putting sexual comments.
Yeah, a lot of weird off-putting sexual comments.
Anyway, that's what you're in for.
So what a treat on Sleepwalkers. Tune in this Thursday on NBC. You have a game for us.
I do. It's something we haven't played, I think, in a little while. I think it's a fan favorite. I've decided, you've decided. It's a little Who'd You Rather Sleepwalkers edition. I'm going to give you the categories. So for anyone who hasn't listened before, I will give Luke 3 options, and he picks characters from shows that correspond with those options. That's the worst description ever.
Well, now I'm confused at how this game is played.
Okay, well, you'll remember how to play. So your 3 options are, you are either going to start a dream-based business with this person.
Okay.
Or you are going to share a coma with the person.
Okay.
Or, and now we might want to change this because of what happened in these episodes, but originally I put push off the side of a cliff.
Oh, I do like that.
Or we can change it to, alternatively, allow to be hit by a car. What do you like better?
I think pushing off a cliff's more active.
All right. So again, start a dream-based business with, share a coma with, or push off the side of a cliff. And
Great.
There's 5 quick rounds, okay?
I'm surprised you didn't go share an erotic dream with.
Well, I guess we could have anyway. Round 1, I've called this Doctor, but also eye candy. And your options are Molly Ann Caffrey from Threshold, Alison Crowley from Strange New World, or Kate Russell, Sleepwalkers. Basically, it is, they're all professionals, but, come on. They're also women.
I mean, that was definitely the theme of Threshold for that character.
Mm-hmm.
So, lady from Strange New World, she barely existed, so I'm going to push her off a cliff. I won't miss her.
Yeah, Alison Crowley.
Sorry, Alison Crowley, won't miss you. I'm going to start a dream-based business with McCaffrey from Threshold.
Oh, okay, interesting. You don't have to worry about your business plan because she has all of the possible things that could go wrong. She already has a book for it.
I know, she's got that. She's got all those books about worst-case scenarios. I really like it. So I guess I'm going to share a coma with Kate from Sleepwalkers.
Well, she has her little hand glove thing, so she'll be able to communicate with the outside world if you need to.
Perfect situation.
All right, I think those are all good. Round 2. And I've called this round, We Have to Obey the Protocol. Your options are Jonas Bledsoe from Bionic Woman, Devin Adair from Earth 2, or Nathan Bradford from Sleepwalkers.
Man, oh man.
I think each of those characters at one point has mentioned that they have to follow the protocol.
I mean, that was their primary. They're the boss. They're the boss.
Yeah.
They're the boss. You gotta listen to the boss.
Yeah, there's rules, guys.
I mean, this is a tough one. I'm going to go with start the dream business with Bledsoe because he's the most palatable to me. But I'm in a real tough spot between these next two.
I'm going to say this right now. I think Nathan has gotten exponentially worse as this show's gone.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing is like, I guess I will share a coma with Adair I mean, she can be quite annoying, but she's not always annoying. Yeah. Whereas, oh man, Dr. Bradford, every episode he becomes worse and worse.
He's agree
like
with
the
you.
Villain of the show now.
I think those are pretty good picks. So let's go on to round 3. Science Schmiance. And your options are Angela March from Ultraviolet, Vincent Konofsky from Sleepwalkers, or he goes just by Nathan from Bionic Woman.
Oh, Nathan. I'm going to push Nathan off a cliff immediately because he's scary.
Yeah.
What was my first one again?
Angela March, Ultraviolet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I'm going to start a dream business with Angela March. She's the best option there.
I think so, too.
And, I mean, Vincent's okay, but he's falling into that, I think you were talking about that late 90s edgy trope where, like, he's, for the most part, a nice guy, but now they just, like, make him a creep every time they get a chance to.
Yeah, it's just like, we don't have time to develop this character, so let's just have him make some weird comment, and then let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, isn't that funny that he's a creep? It's like, no, it's not funny.
Was that it? Who got pushed off the cliff? It was old Nathan?
Yeah, Nathan from Bionic Woman's. He fell off that cliff. I gave him a little shove.
Round 4, loose cannon. You got Hamilton from Spectre, Craig... Remember Hamilton?
I do.
Craig Toomey from The Langoliers, or Steve Turner, Sleepwalkers.
Steve Turner, oh man.
I don't know if he's really a loose cannon, but...
He wants to be a loose cannon, though. He's not actually, but he would love to be.
I think he would love to be.
He wants to be the wild card of the group.
He's like, guys, dude, look at me. I popped my collar.
He's getting shoved off the cliff, I'm afraid. See you, Steve.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to share a coma with Greg Toomey.
Oh, man, that's going to be a loud, annoying coma.
It sure is. But I'm going to start that dream business with Hamilton.
You're like, where's Ham? Oh, I think he's drinking.
Me and Ham are going to have great adventures together.
All right, round 5, the final round. And it's called We Don't Know What to Do with This Character. We have Chris Norman from the Danger Team, Kenny Baker from Codename Phoenix, and Ben Costigan from Sleepwalkers. It's a real mixed bag here.
What was that second one again?
Kenny Baker from Codename Phoenix. Remember we thought he was going to be the star of the show?
I do remember now. All right. This is the problem with these people who have no purpose.
I know.
Like, who are they again? This is a tough one, actually.
Yeah, I actually feel bad that Ben's in this because I think he's not a bad actor or character, but they've done nothing with him after the first episode, so he has to get thrown into this pile.
I mean, that's a separate... I think this show is filled with amazing actors given literally nothing to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the first one again?
You got Chris Norman from the Danger Team.
Thank you.
He got kidnapped. That's all he did.
I'm going to push Chris Norman off the cliff.
Yeah.
From Danger Team because he truly was an empty shirt that they stuffed the mannequin into and it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm going to have a coma with Kenny Baker, I guess, if only because I worry he gets too annoying to spend too much time with. And he was cute, but like I think he might be a little annoying. And Costigan, I guess I'll start the dream business with because he seems the most reasonable of them all. He seems the most like nice.
He's a fast learner, I think.
That's true. He's a fast learner.
Yeah. Anyways,
he's very versatile.
And that's just how you play the game.
Well, I now have all my favorites picked out.
I mean, it really does start showing you unintentional or otherwise tropes and character archetypes that just kind of get repeated over and over. Because a lot of times you either forget who these characters are or you can just interchange them and it doesn't make too much difference in the show, regardless of when the time period of the show was or the genre.
It's true. There's just like a part in the cast you need to fill, for better or worse.
Yeah. Oh, we need an exposition character. This guy.
Oh, we got this guy.
Yeah. Anyways.
Good game. Shall we get into it?
Yeah. Eye of the Beholder, right?
That's the one. Here's the IMDb summary for episode 3, Eye of the Beholder. A woman keeps dreaming that her husband is trying to operate on her abdomen. The team discovers the presence of another person in her dreams. A confused man psychically... That's not how it's... Someone wrote this down this way. Psychically linked to her. But why? Later, the team is hit by tragedy.
Before we got into these 2 episodes, I was thinking to myself, and I don't think we spoke about this, I thought this show had already run out of ideas. I said, they've done the 3 or so episodes of what this show can be. And I thought, where are they going to go? Now, this episode is a colossal mess. However, I have never seen... I don't think I've ever seen an episode that is out there bizarre as this. The plot line of like what they're trying to do in this episode. It's so odd.
Well, we can have to get into it. I also felt like suddenly it was finding traction in like not just like we go into dreams and solve a very basic mystery. It's starting to like now lay the groundwork for maybe something larger at play.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's like, because I thought, well, this show's just going to start repeating itself, but then they've really thrown things in a different direction. And I'm not saying it works, because maybe 50% of it works, but it's definitely gone off that direction of we're going to go in and solve a murder.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, for better or worse, I'm like, at least it's going somewhere now. But also I'm like, you know, ignoring the fact that these series was aired out of order, even if it was aired correctly, we are now like, what, 5 and 6 episodes into this now? I'm like, you guys took way too long to get to this.
I agree.
Anyway, this time we start off in another dream, as we always do, and it's the dream of Mrs. Maxwell. Mm-hmm. She's her dream starts in a fancy house. I guess it's like the 1950s or 60s. But when she flips on the TV, she gets a black and white show of a bar going on the TV, and it's some sort of strange like black and white thing. But the bar is modern. I don't know. So she transitions into this black and white bar. Like it's so hard to describe these things because they're all dream logic-y. But like,
well, the part is she's in color, but everything's not only in black and white, but they're also sort of like the old signals you get in TV where everything's not quite coming out properly. It's all sort of static
in there,
yeah.
little noise. And in this black and white world, it's sort of more of a modern bar, unlike her dream, which was like 1950s-ish. But her husband comes in dressed in a tux, and she's strapped to a chair, and he begins to cut into her abdomen with a scalpel and I guess extract something from her body, at which point she sort of wakes up screaming in her bedroom with her confused husband in bed, and she starts accusing him of attempting to kill her.
Mm-hmm. Which is a weird thing, and it's something that kind of comes about in both these episodes where people are reacting things in their dreams as if they've decided that it's happening in real life. Like everyone has had a dream where someone got murdered or there was some violent attack or something, but I don't think you usually wake up and go, I must have done that, or this person has an intention. You think it's your subconscious.
Yeah, these dreams are apparently so vivid, these people wake up convinced they're true.
Yeah, so anyways, that's going to be her thing, is that she's decided her husband is trying to kill her. But actually, I should take that back. She does have another point, which we're going to find out soon, is she's actually manifesting or showing injuries that seem to be consistent with where she had been stabbed. So you're going to see in a scene or two that not only does she feel like she got stabbed in her side, but she has some sort of bruising or something. So it looks like she's been hit there too.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. So they head off to the old Morpheus Institute, wherever you go when you had a bad dream.
Who, again, as we've mentioned, I think in the previous episode, we don't know what they're charging or how people are finding out about this business, but somehow it's running in this shady alley.
In this old run-down hotel building. I think they've got billboards all over town.
Although I'm going to say in this episode, and I don't know if you noticed it, in a couple scenes, Luke, we're going to get a scene where this woman is talking to Kate and they're talking about these dreams, and I thought it was taking place at her home, but the camera pulls out to show that it's in like an observatory room behind glass that's in their lab. And I thought, hold on, they set up an entire living room with like a clock and a fireplace and all this just for chatting to people about their dreams?
It's just the lobby in the hotel. The hotel they work at.
It's so bizarre. Anyway.
It is weird. It's weird they have a two-way mirror there where they can talk to her. And it's even weirder that they're having this conversation with this woman who's afraid her husband's going to kill her. And the other side of the two-way glass, they're just letting the husband look in on it.
I know. It's like Nathan's like, well, we know her. She's hysterical, so I'll just talk to the husband.
Well, that is truly how it seems.
Yeah.
But essentially the thing is, Mrs. Maxwell, apparently, she has lupus. She's recently had a kidney transplant.
I don't know why lupus was so funny, but it made me laugh.
They really brought it up.
Yeah.
And to your point about Bradford treating her as a hysterical wife, like Bradford's immediately just like, it's probably just her medication. Like Bradford immediately dismisses her.
It's an interesting character point because we mentioned in the previous podcast that there was an episode where they all went to a town, and what the episode seemed to be implying was that there was some sort of malevolent force that was making the men all act like jerks and act very aggressive and condescending towards women. We found out that's not what it was. And apparently, it is just the direction the show has gone specifically for Nathan. He doesn't have one conversation where he's not talking down to someone, condescending, correcting them, speaking over them. It's unbelievable. And I feel bad because I like the actor, but man, this character is obnoxious now.
Yeah. It is as if in that episode they decided, oh, this is a great direction for him to go. Let's have him talk down to anyone he meets, especially if she's a woman.
I think it's what it is they want conflict. It almost feels like the note was like, there's not enough stuff happening when they're not in dreams, so what if we always have the characters arguing? But what it comes across is not why are they kind of fighting, why are they both right? It's someone making an argument, which is clearly going to be the answer, and Nathan just poo-pooing on it just because?
Just because, just for some conflict.
Yeah.
And he never apologized. He never says, oh, I guess you were right.
No, the most we got was in the previous episode. He's just like, sometimes she's got it, or something like that, and they all kind of smile. It's like, well, wasn't an apology.
Anyway, Kate and Costigan head into Mrs. Maxwell's dream. They go to this old black and white bar, and Costigan's in there, and he's just like, hey, I recognize that brand of beer on the wall. Ugh. It's from North Carolina, and this woman's never been to North Carolina before.
Yeah, it's funny that they've decided, they're like, this show is about going into dreams and solving some sort of mystery. But you guys created this episode. Why do you have to have such flimsy reasons to get them to other places? It's just like, guys, that's so specific. Like, so if Ben didn't go in, that would have been it. They'd have been like, well, we haven't seen anything in here.
So funny too, because they also like constantly see the number 37 in the beginning of this dream here. They're always like, all the balls say 37 on the pool table, all the things on the jukebox say 37, and then like 40 minutes later at the end of this episode, they like connect that to something, but I had forgotten they even brought up the number 37.
Let's say you're one of the people going to one of these dream things. Would you be picking up on all these? Like, would you have picked up on the number 37 and stuff? I don't think I'd have caught any of it.
No, that's what's so funny about the show is they just focus in on the clue that they need to get across to the audience, and there's like nothing else they bring up. There's no other like red herrings.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, and this is gonna sound dumb, but like, it makes as much sense as them going, did you notice everyone's wearing dress shoes? That must be a connection. Is there a shoe store near here? Like, it's that tenuous a connection that they go on, and it's always like, they walk in and go, hey, that guy's got a hat. Must be a cowboy. Anyways, let's go to a ranch. And it's like, it is the ranch. Like, what? Like, it's just so bizarre.
Yeah, it is like the audience doesn't get clues. The cast just tells you, here's the clues we know, and as soon as they say it, you know, okay, well, that has value because they said it out loud.
Yeah.
But if you were just to show someone the dream without the audio, no, you wouldn't be able to pick up on what the clues are.
Right. Anyways, they get to see the same thing where it's like, the guy has like a chainsaw now, and he's like maybe attacking someone on a pool table, and you're like, does this have anything to do with anything? And the answer is no, it doesn't.
Well, that's just it. It's just like tenuously does the other flashes in this dream have to do with anything. But like basically the important part of this dream is in the waking world where this is happening. The rest of the team is, monitoring Mrs. Maxwell's brainwaves, and they pick up a second set of dream signals entering her brainwaves. A
ghost signal, they call it.
A ghost signal enters her brainwaves. Yeah. So there appears to be a second dreamer involved, and my favorite part is like, they're like, I don't know, jam the dream.
Yeah. He's like, hold on, there's a ghost signal. I need to change the frequency so I can lower their heart rate. And I went, what? Like, it's just like I don't even care. Like, I think you like the science details more than I do, but I don't want it to be so stupid where they haven't even made the slightest attempt to create the world,
Yeah, well, I think that's the problem with the show is like their tech is so they don't even know what it is. So it's just the thing. They're like, I don't know, there's a second dream signal. Let's jam that dream signal. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, like it's not building on anything. It's just like a random thing you made up for this episode. But when they attempt to stop this second dream signal, this like wakes them up from the dream, and they just start like theorizing. It's like, where'd that second dream signal come from? Maybe there's some leftover adrenal tissue on that kidney that got donated to her. So maybe the kidney's dreams are affecting her dreams?
I tell you could have stuck me in a room for 100 years and I wouldn't have come up with that the kidney is somehow transmitting dreams to the host. Because it's a kidney. It's not a brain. It's not a brain transplant.
It's wild. And I mean, later in this episode, they'll go visit a doctor, and the doctor will assure them there's no adrenal tissue left over on the kidney. But the solution is still the kidney's giving her these dreams.
Yeah.
So I just I don't know why they had to go. They're like, adrenal. Are they telling us that our adrenal tissue gives us dreams? Is that what they're trying to postulate here? But then they're going to find out that's not true. I just didn't understand this.
Well, it was weird because it almost felt like going to the doctor undercut the theory. And you go, oh, so it's not what it is. But then later, like, no, that's what it is. Like, but so why did you even talk to the doctor? Well, we just had to.
Yeah, it was like, oh no, it's more supernatural. Like, if she still had adrenal tissue on the kidney, it would make sense she had someone else's dreams. I'm like, scientifically, but because it's not there now, I'm like, it doesn't make sense either way.
Yeah. Anyways, what you need to know is there seems to be a connection between not only this woman, but other people who have had transplants, possibly from the same donor, and they're having some sort of two dreams fighting with one another or entering one another's dreams in some sense. That's basically what this episode's about.
I mean, they essentially head back into the dream. This time they want to like get into that ghost signal and see what's going on in that dream. For whatever reason, Costigan's benched this time, so Bradford goes in with Cage.
Well, I don't know if we mentioned it before, but there does seem to be a thing where they have too many characters, so they have to keep rotating them in dreams, and sometimes they make a reason for it. They're like, you're too close, or you just had a heart attack, or whatever it might be. But it does seem like every other time they go in, they change the people, sometimes just because. And also, I should note, in neither of these episodes does anyone go in with a glove, because apparently Kate is the only one who could use the glove. And also, when she goes in, she also doesn't use the glove. It's just gone from these two episodes.
They got bored of it.
Yeah.
So they go back in the dream. This time they kind of go into the ghost signal, I guess is how it works. And there they happen to like follow a man and woman up to a parkade where they see them fighting. And then when they look off the side of the parkade, there's a body down on the bottom of the parkade. So they're like, oh, let's go see what's up with that body. And this is kind of the best part of this episode is they go down, there's like a man's body in a plastic bag. When they open it up, the man like kind of demands they give it back, I guess implying the organ that this woman has. And on the side of his body is like a huge like stitched up side where, you know, an organ might have been taken out. Mm-hmm. And as they're looking at this like wound on his side, a hand very gorily crawls out of the wound, and then Mrs. Maxwell like starts pulling herself out of this man's abdomen wound, just like soaked in blood. It was like so gory, but like actually one of the best things this show's ever done.
I actually wish they would lean into this sort of stuff, not necessarily gross, but just like weird, different stuff. You're in dreams. You should be seeing odd things. And I thought that was a good effect for this show. Up until this point of the episode, pretty bad, but I'm like, well, that was good.
Yeah, this was like, I was like, oh, well, at least we got this in this episode. Mm-hmm. So as Mrs. Maxwell crawls out of this man's like gaping wound in his abdomen, back in the real world, she has a seizure and goes into heart failure.
Which, by the way, I wish we had kept track of the first time we see it, because people are going to go into seizure in this and end up in the hospital in the next episode as well. The hospital must just be constantly getting patients of theirs into the hospital for heart attacks and seizures. And it's just like, is no one checking on them? But there's no quality control because they're terrible at their jobs.
I don't know if they've had a patient they haven't given a seizure to. I don't know if that's happened.
Yeah.
So they are irresponsible at the very minimum.
But it does seem like it's everyone but their main characters. Oh, that's not true. Steve had a heart attack at the beginning.
So they sent another patient to the hospital, and now they're like, all right, we need to figure out what's going on. We can't access transplant records for organs because the National Transplant Society is so secretive we can't even hack them. Mm-hmm. Which I was like, I don't know if this makes sense. And also, what are you doing hacking? Are you guys above the law? I don't understand.
Again, it's sort of a shorthand. People just hear hacking and they go, that means they're getting into stuff, I guess.
So since they can't figure out where all these organs are from, they decide, let's go to North Carolina and look into that bar we saw. And because in the dream they heard a Scottish song playing, Costigan's able to pinpoint which city in South Carolina that the bar must be located in, because one time his grandma took him to the Highland Games.
Then they have a line in there. They're like, well, we need to find the bar. Well, first thing we need to do, what's an area that has a large Scottish population? And I was like, guys, this is so bad. Like, you were making this mystery. You can make this mystery anything. And the solution to find the answer, you could do anything. And they're just like, it's so lazy. And I'm like, do you not want to do this episode?
Yeah, it is so, like, everything is so coincidental. It's like, there's a Scottish song. It's in South Carolina. Costigan one time got taken to a city with Scottish people because he went to his grandma took him to the Highland Games. I'm just like, you guys, this is incredibly stupid.
I just wish once where they just like, because it doesn't seem to mean anything, they just have all the wrong answers and they still at the end of the episode are like, I don't know, it's dreams. What do we care anyway?
Yeah, I don't know. This had a weird dream. What do I care? But this basically sends Costigan and Steve to go to this North Carolina city to investigate. And how they try to find this bar is they just do a pub crawl and get day drunk. Like, Steve's just publicly urinating in the middle of the day. I was just like, what is happening here?
Well, it's because it's that thing we kind of mentioned. Like, they want to have a real shorthand for developing the character, and Steve hasn't had much screen time, so it's like, isn't he kind of zany? And he's drinking on the job, but it's like, is that helping at all? Like, I don't know if it makes his character funnier, and I don't know if it progresses the plot of this episode at all. Yeah,
it is truly just to give them a 2-character moment where, like, we get to know Costigan and Steve a bit better, but we really don't. It's just like it just also just brings up so many of those, like, these people are terrible at their job.
And I think we also get like a scene where like Steve and Ben have like kind of like a heart, and they kind of make some sort of weird sex jokes, and it's like, okay, I guess we've developed them.
Steve's just like, what are you doing on this team? You're not messed up in the head like the rest of us. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, and then he gives like a real quick thing. He's like, Nathan's like this, Kate's like this, Vincent's like this. And I like at one part he was like, Vincent's a genius, you can't even work in normal society. I'm like, I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah, I know, right? I saw that too. I'm like, is Vincent a genius who can't work in normal society? Seems like a normal guy to me.
Not on the playbook they have for the show.
Anyway, they finally end up at the right bar from the dream, and they go talk to the bartender, but he doesn't really know anything about a person who died on a parkade, so they leave their card with him, and he's going to be like, I'll ask any of my regulars if they know anything about dead bodies on parkade. But there's some dude sitting at the bar just like constantly sketching in his notebook, and he overhears this whole conversation and like steals their business card. So at this point, I'm like, okay, so this guy's going to come talk to them later. He knows something. He took the business card. And then for some reason, they go outside the bar, and this guy who took their business card is now breaking into a random car outside of the bar?
I think it was their car.
But how would he know?
I don't know. Because I had to assume it was their car, because I don't know why he would be doing that. None of his actions make any sense.
Like, the business card doesn't say, oh, and this is what our car we rented when we came to North Carolina looks like.
No. People put that in their business card.
And Costigan, of course, walks in on him breaking the car, and this mystery man, like, punches Costigan in the head, and Costigan, like, gets knocked unconscious and has a dream that someone stole his kidney, and then he just wakes up and is like, oh, what a weird dream.
Well, and there's something I'm going to mention that I haven't quite figured out in this show. They have a dream machine that takes them into dreams, and, you know, they can connect the dreams and solve the mysteries and blah, blah, blah. But it seems like there's also a lot of, not quite waking dreams, but people are also having these very intense dreams that are connected outside of it. Like, but I don't know why. Like, why would he have been dreaming about this particular case?
Yeah, that's just it. Like, people have their own... These main characters will also have their own dreams outside of, like, the dream walking, where you just get to see them have a dream that I guess is supposed to show us backstory or, like, their anxiety around things, but it doesn't... Like, this particular thing is, like, doesn't affect... Because what we're going to find out, this has nothing to do with a organ snatching ring. Like, it's just that, like, I guess that's what they think it is at the moment. So Ben Costigan has a dream of getting his kidney stolen. He wakes up in, like, a bathtub full of ice kind of thing. But it's all just a pointless dream.
But we also get to see Nathan share coma dreams with his wife again, and he's not in the machine. He's just in his chair.
Yeah, that's true. There was that one time where he just had a random waking dream. I don't know why.
Anyways, dreams.
It's show loves them. You guys have enough dreams. More dreams. Please. Yeah. So, yeah, that's their trip to North Carolina. They don't get any closer to solving anything.
No.
They just go back to whatever city they work out of and head straight to the hospital. And when they go to the hospital, that same man from North Carolina has somehow also made it across the country to the same hospital. And he's there to see Mrs. Maxwell because it turns out he's having the exact same dreams as her. And he's also had an organ transplant recently. And he's also just trying to figure out what's going on with my crazy dreams.
It would almost be believable if he somehow took their card or stole their card and then found where they were and kind of was checking out of them and was, I don't know, nervous about talking to them or something. But he doesn't find them. He sees their business card and then somehow magically figures out who this woman is and that she's in the hospital and what city and state she's in and is able to show up in in 12 hours. Because
what they told the bartender was like, we're looking into a crime where someone fell off a parkade. So they didn't say there's a woman who's having crazy dreams. They didn't say any of this stuff. So this man pieced that one little thing, parkade death, into those are my same dreams. Another woman must be having those dreams who also had, like, it doesn't make any sense how he got there.
And even crazier, I noticed that the bartender who was stocking up his stock was using like 6-packs to do it. And I thought, no way. That's not a cost-effective way of stocking up a bar with 6-packs.
I mean, anyway, they now have both of these people who are having the same crazy dreams. So they're like, you know what we got to do? We got to sync their dreams up in our dream boards.
Yeah.
And it's very funny, too, because the doctor's just like, I don't know if it's safe. You gave this woman heart failure and she's about to, like, they're just like, she's going to die any minute now.
And they're just like, we got to do it. Sorry.
We got to do it. Okay, that's what happens. They're like, we're going to sync both their dreams and it's going to be crazy. And we've never done this before. And Steve, our favorite character, who's just like always the wild card of the background. He takes Bradford aside. He's just like, Bradford, you can't do this. We've never sunk two people's dreams together. It's way too dangerous. And Bradford's like, what if I told you can come into the dream? And he's like, oh, well, in that case, yeah, let's fucking do it.
In the previous episode, we had 12 people who were in some sort of comatose state who they linked all their dreams because Kate went from one to another because they were all having the same dreams. How is that any different?
Well, I think those dreams were independent. I don't think they sunk them all into the same machine. They only had 2 machines that time.
All right, sure. You're right.
This time they have 4 machines, and they're going to put 4 people into the same dream.
All right. Yeah, it's much.
It doesn't make any sense.
The stakes have been higher.
It is just so that, like, I guess Steve's off the bench now. It's just very funny. Steve's like, this is dangerous. And Bradford's like, what if I let you go back in dreams again because I haven't let you in 4 episodes? And he's like, well, in that case, let's kill these people. I don't care. So they go into this double dream. This time they're, same sort of thing we've seen before. Parkade, bar, blah, blah, blah. Now, this time they're like, oh, look, a truck's driving by with someone's weird logo for their construction company on it. What if we go to 37th Street in the dream because we saw the number 37 one time?
And again, it's like the dreamscape is so big that what you're dreaming of is there's an entire city that's built in your dream. It's like, okay, sure.
They get there. They see that same couple they saw fighting on the parkade before. It's clear they're quite drunk, and the woman's telling the man, like, hey, you're too drunk to drive. Give me the keys. And he's just like, no, I love to drink and drive. It's so much fun. So he pushes her off the side of the parkade like a woman at a mining shaft.
Yeah, that's our second woman we've seen just pushed over the edge.
Yeah, and essentially what they've done is they've discovered that this man who runs this construction company, whose logo's on the truck in the dream, killed his wife or girlfriend in this dream, and I guess her organs were passed around, and now everyone is trying to solve her murder case if they have her organ.
I don't want to add any too much reality into this, but if she was actually pushed over the side of this bridge and hit the ground and seemingly not found to the next day, those organs aren't going to be donated.
I mean, good point.
So, I mean, I don't think I believe this episode.
But so essentially in this dream, they're like, we've solved the mystery. It was a woman who was murdered and only we know about it. Hard cut to a construction site. I mean, it's like a house job. Someone's doing construction on their house. Hard cut there. The Murphy's Institute has showed up with Mrs. Maxwell, who is dying of heart failure, or she was 30 minutes ago. And they go to the construction site, find the man who owns the construction company, and Mrs. Maxwell's like, you murdered your girlfriend. And the man's like, who are you? And then the police are like, well, you're under arrest for dream evidence, I guess.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they have like this would never hold up in court. He's just like, who are you guys? They're like, we know you did it. If I was the guy to say, sorry, you had a dream I killed someone?
It's already weird the Morphine Institute is out there solving crimes, but to take your client and drag her across the country to North Carolina to j'accuse this man in the middle of the street. It's just such a weird choice to have this whole sequence where it's like, all right, I guess this woman gets to accuse this person.
It just feels like they ran out of time because I don't know. I just don't know what authority they have to charge anyone or what evidence they have or why this is even their process. You're right, of like bringing the person. It just seems like none of this is going to work, but they're just like, we just need this out as the episode to end. So that's
but the police are there. He's under arrest. Murder solved.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. And you mentioned this earlier. Throughout this episode, there's a whole bunch of like either actual dreams where Dr. Bradford goes to visit his coma wife's dreams, or like he'll just have his own dreams independently of like his wife, I guess, in the coma. But the point of these dreams is basically his coma wife has been feeling anxious about something bad might happen. And in her dreams, she's always pointing out, like, see that little girl with a balloon? She's so weird. She freaks me out. And then Bradford starts having these same dreams of a little girl with a balloon. And this is, I guess, supposed to give us, like, a bad omen is coming.
Mm-hmm. But the weird is, like, we don't know why. And I don't think the show ever thought about how this is connected at all, other than it's an image you'll see. But it's like, why and how? It doesn't matter.
They're kind of implying it's more because even the wife in the coma is just like, I've been having that dream of this girl with a balloon since before my accident. And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, but what happens here, Luke? Well, the important thing is Nathan, for some reason, is like, even though I've started a business, that the whole point is the importance of dreams and the symbols in dreams, and they're telling you something. He ignores this for no reason other than he does. And
he just doesn't, yeah, I guess he doesn't know what to do with it. But it's crazy because that's what happened. They've solved this case, and they are presumably still in North Carolina. I have no idea. But they're walking through a public park now, discussing the case. The entire Morpheus Institute is there. The entire staff is there. They're just wandering through this park discussing, like, can you believe we solved another murder? Isn't this great? And, of course, in the park, Nathan, with the waking world, spots this little girl with a balloon, and he's just like, what? That's weird. It's a little girl with a balloon. And I just love this. It's so crazy. Because this is like, imagine this is the last 30 seconds of the episode, listener. Steve is walking with Vincent. He's just like, let's go get a drink. And Vincent's like, I would love a drink. And Steve's just like, okay, let's run across this road and get going. And he runs into the street. Steve runs into the street without looking.
Yeah.
And is immediately hit by a car.
Like he's a 2-year-old.
Yeah, it's like a cautionary tale or like a TV commercial where it's telling you don't run into the street. He just runs to the street, is just like plowed into by a car immediately. And then he just bleeds so much from his head that he dies.
He's dead. Yeah. And it's, I mean, I think structurally you can tell why they had this character from the pilot and they've tried getting him out before, sort of like benching him, and they just don't know what to do with him. And there's too many characters. So they're like, let's just kill him. But they didn't do it in a way that made you as a viewer feel anything because we haven't learned anything about him. And it wasn't an earned death. It wasn't like he saved a child or...
it's unrelated to the plot of this episode. It's just like the end of it, he just gets hit by a car.
It's just literally like, oh yeah, by the way, we have 30 seconds left. He's dead now. You're like, but what?
Well, what's crazy too is it's not even like they realized like we have too many characters in the show. He's been, I don't know if you've noticed this, Jordan, but this is how I figured out where this episode fell in the plot line. He's been a special guest star in every single episode. So they wrote this character to lead up to this big climax that is just the most random thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
Because we need to go to his actual funeral now in the IMDb summary for episode 7, A Matter of Facts. Facts, of course, spelled F-A-X.
Yeah, I have to give this 1 point because it's a pun title and it's so dumb. So you got to give a point right there. Matter of Facts.
That is true.
Because it's a facts-related episode.
Very facts-heavy. But listen, if you like drinking games, every time a facts happens in an episode, just take a shot. You're going to be wasted at the end of this episode.
I want to go into his dream, Nathan.
No, listen. Kimberly Daniels is a fantasy figure. She's hatched out of his loneliness. It's wish fulfillment in a red shoe. For us to accept a patient, his dreams have to have real, significant, waking world consequences. You helped establish the criteria.
Right, and you can change them. Your name's on the letterhead.
Well, I'm not going to change them just to accommodate your clouded judgment.
My judgment is not clouded. I resent that. Alan's case is unique, and there's an aspect of telepathic dreaming that we've never researched before.
Kate, he's desperate for attention. I get that. He's tormented. I get that. But taking this guy on as a patient has nothing to do with collecting research on telepathic dreaming. Why do you need to do it?
Because he needs our help.
Still grieving over her colleague's death, Kate tries to help a slightly autistic, desperate man who suffers from reoccurring nightmares in which he strangles a stripper whom he likes in real life and who's now missing.
I mean, yeah?
Not really. A, don't think he's autistic. B, doesn't know this woman in real life.
We're going to be towing a real line here, though. I think the actor is trying to do some sort of character on the spectrum. I don't think it was clear at the beginning, but I think at least in one draft, I think this character had some sort of level of autism, and that's what they're trying to portray, but I think it was toned down so you get just a socially awkwardness.
Here's what I would say, and this maybe is something listeners haven't watched, and you probably haven't watched, Jordan, but there's a comedian named Joe Pera who has a comedy show called Joe Pera Talks With You.
Okay.
He's from Michigan, Northern Michigan. The whole show's set in Northern Michigan. It's like great. If you haven't seen the show, everybody, I recommend it highly. It's like a very funny, very like nice show. But like he has the exact same speech pattern, and it is just because he is like from Northern Michigan. So this man just sounds like a man from Northern Michigan. Like maybe. That's how they've played his autism, I guess. Is he just sounds like a man from Northern Michigan.
Yeah, well, I mean, I even have the note because I didn't read the synopsis, and my note was, is he trying to be autistic of some sense? And I just couldn't tell. But anyways, he's awkward. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, he's a slightly awkward man. That's what it is. And we open in his dream. Alan, he's a fax repairman. You know, classic job, repairing fax machines.
I just refer to him as Clark Kent, though, in all my notes.
Because he's got those glasses?
Yeah, he's got the glasses and kind of the hair. He kind of looks a little bit like Clark Kent.
He's going to bed at the beginning of this episode, and he enters his dream where he's at a strip club filled with World War II pilots.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good dream.
The woman on stage is a woman named Kimberly, and she heads backstage, and he follows her back there, I think after her titular line, or not titular line, the line you used at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, which is, let me see, what was the line? But she says it really grossly. She's like, I'm going to swallow you up.
Yeah, and he goes backstage, and the walls backstage are breathing, like the walls are moving in and out, breathing, and
yeah,
it's quite clearly tense. And he puts a plastic bag over her head to smother her to death, and I guess murder her. And then we hard cut, and Kimberly, this woman we've just seen stripping, she's waking up in another location, and she's terrified. She just had a dream someone tried to murder her.
This seems to be the most confusing of the plots. The whole time I was like, I don't even know what they're doing this episode.
I mean, the premise here, where I think we get at the cold open is, and they kind of bring it up this episode, is that like two people are sharing a dream, and one person's being menaced by the other. They don't know each other. They've never met, and there's kind of this like weird thing where like these people are having the same dream. And Kate at some point says, she's like, we've got to look into this because of our research into psychic dreaming, which I was just like, is that what you guys do? You research psychic dreaming? This is the first I've heard of it, but yeah. I think that's the premise. They're like, oh, we may have found a case of psychic dreaming.
Right. Okay.
We'll get into that more because there's a lot more to talk about that. But anyway, before they get into this investigation, though, the Morpheus team is busy because they're at a funeral for Steve. They're dumping his ashes into a crate to like say goodbye to him. Mm-hmm. And Jordan, I have to ask you, when you die, you're hoping your boss and your coworkers get your earthly remains to do whatever they want with, right?
That is my hope, yeah. It is funny. It's because like you want this moment, but in reality, you're like, I assume his family would have his ashes. It
is. I just had sort of, I'm like, is he also an orphan like those other orphans? Like, why does the Morpheus Institute get to decide what happens with their coworker's body?
Wouldn't it be great if those orphans from the other episode came in and they were also just there to help him out? And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, he also was in that orphanage.
Yeah, we were all at the same orphanage. We're closer to being family to him than you weird coworkers are.
Yeah, that aunt who has her own kid, she's also stolen another kid.
It is just one of those things where I was watching this, I'm just like, this is so funny because it is such a weird idea. It's like that your coworkers get your body when you die.
Yeah. And should we mention, I don't know, there's a weird B plot we can kind of talk about, but for some reason Ray Wise keeps showing up to like look at them menacingly.
Well, that's the big twist, where this is where it feels like the show is finally getting traction on a direction it wants to go, but like it's taken so long to get here, is that they're doing this funeral and Kate is sort of like implying, just like, hey, that girl with the balloon you saw in the park and it was in your wife's dreams, Bradford, that seems to imply some sort of predestination or a premonition. So like this is unusual, right? Like we haven't discovered dreams having premonitions before, and this is starting to happen, right? Like It's affecting the waking world. So we're starting to see this idea of something supernatural, and then out in the woods, this McKegg character played by Ray Wise, he's standing in the woods watching them do this funeral, eating an apple. So I guess he didn't drown at Stanford?
Well, there's neither an implied that he's not dead or that somehow he is still existing in dreams and has been able to manifest in the real world. I think there's something maybe there that the dreams and reality are connecting in some ways.
I think maybe much like that drowned baby episode where it turned out the baby was just kidnapped. Maybe they just didn't search the water after he fell in, and they just didn't look for him, and he's actually been alive this whole time.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, let's get to the case at hand of this episode. Alan, who had the dream, he's really freaked out. He's convinced that if he had a dream about killing this woman, he has killed this woman. And
well, Luke, that's my problem though. Is like they keep going back to that. I know there's this weird push and pull with Kate and Nathan, and I hate to agree with Nathan, but they keep investigating this as if there's a murder. And like at one point, police come in. They're like checking this apartment stuff. And I'm like, but there's no indication this woman's dead.
Well, this is it. This is going to be the argument. But like, yeah, thankfully for Alan, he happens to be the fax repairman for the Morpheus Institute. And like, so he knows right where to go.
Well, and they imply he's been there like a lot. It's like, one, how many faxes are they doing in whatever 1997? And the second thing is, how bad a repairman is he? He's constantly there fixing their fax machine.
I mean, based on this episode, faxes are used like we use text messages today. They are faxing left and right in this episode.
They're just sending notes to each other via fax.
And so he comes in, he's like, I had this dream. I'm afraid I killed somebody. And to like sort of back up his point, he's just like, I've got these plastic bags in my house, but I never bought them. And I found a high heel shoe in my garbage, but I didn't put it there. Like, what's going on? And Kate's like, let's help him. I really want to help this guy. He's our fax repairman. I apparently have a fax communication with it. Like, when we go to his house, Nathan notices like Kate and him have been faxing back and forth, I guess, in their off hours, recommending books to each other and stuff. So they're like fax friends.
But you're right. They've essentially been treating it like it's a text message.
But Bradford, true to his, I guess, character he's developed now, he's just like, he wants nothing to do with helping this man. He's just like, listen, Kate, he's just some pathetic nerd who's into you. We're not helping.
Yeah, he's basically like, he wants attention. You should stop being nice to him. And I don't know what viewer would be on his side.
It's like, I appreciate, like, he's like, I don't think there's anything really going on here, just a man having bad dreams. Like, that's a reasonable argument, but like, he's so like, this man's a loser. Don't talk to him anymore.
But I was more excited because in a couple scenes, we get a return of Detective Fusco, and she seems to be real tight with Nathan. Like, they don't like anybody else. The two of them should just get together.
That's true. But this is where the episode turns on its head, is when they get back to the Morpheus Institute, Bradford gets a phone call, and who is it? Why, it's Kimberly, that woman from the dreams, and she's freaking out because some man she's never met is stalking her in her dreams. And she's freaking out, and she's very rattled, and she ends up hanging up because she gets a fax at that moment, because everyone has fax machines in their homes. Even this woman, her apartment has a fax machine. A fax comes in that reads as a warning to her to stay away from Alan from someone named Raoul, who is a character who's also in the background of these dreams. So at this point, Nathan's just like, whoa, maybe something really is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as you mentioned, they call in Detective Fusco because they use Detective Fusco like she's their employee. They have her running background checks for them, looking into people's histories. She's a police officer, and I believe she is currently breaking the law for the Morpheus Institute.
Well, that's the thing, and it's funny. They never bothered to establish the hierarchy in the government of where this institution sits and how it works with other law enforcement agencies. So you just have them come in and out when they need them, the FBI or the local police or whatever. But you're like, but why? And
this is a private organization. It has no ties to any government.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And it's all, what I was really hoping, though, is that the Detective Fusco would come and be like, hey, remember when we found out my partner was a serial killer?
I know, right? They never even dropped that at all. I was like, this woman was shot recently. Anyway, they put Ellen into the sleep pod, and they send old Kate and Costigan into her dream, and they're seeing the strip club. They're following sort of how the dream goes, but this time when Alan follows Kimberly back into the backstage of the strip club, it now goes into her apartment. And
can I mention what the strip club is called?
Yes, please.
The Landing Strip.
Yes, the Landing Strip.
It's so stupid.
When they go back into her apartment, Alan doesn't quite want to attack her with them they're able to hold him back a bit. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, Kimberly in the dream now gets upset and she attacks Kate. So Alan then murders her anyway to protect Kate.
But here's what I didn't get. He's lucid in his dream and he's controlling the dream. So why did he have to attack anybody? Why didn't they just stand back and not act? I didn't understand. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's some implication too that maybe he is only sort of lucid because Costigan's like, we should, prevent him from doing things. And I was like, can you do that? Can you prevent someone in their dream from doing it? The rules are getting more and more nebulous as they go is I think the biggest issue. And sort of while they're in this dream following this thing, as they come out, they get a call from Detective Fusco, and she's just like, well, you were in Alan's dream. The police got a call, and now a woman has been murdered named Kimberly who lives at this address, and we found the crime scene. It's covered in saliva and hair, and she's dead. She's been murdered. We know it for sure, and we have to arrest Alan because he's the only suspect, even though he was at your institute in a dream at the time.
But here's the thing. You find out shortly, it's like, but they have no body.
I know. Well, that's what's crazy, right?
So it's like, that's why I couldn't understand. Why would the police say she's dead? Like, the police would be like, she might be a missing person, or we might be investigating this odd scenario, but never would they say she's dead. And they've also put up like police tape and stuff. I'm like, for what? It's someone's
There's been
apartment.
a murder, Jordan. There's no blood. There's just a lot of saliva and hair.
So maybe she drools.
It's the thing. And they're like, he's under arrest because apparently the police 100% believe in dream murders.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't. I guess what you have to understand in this world is that they have the authority, and if they say something happened in a dream, all legalities are out the window. They go, that seems right.
Well, and then the next scene is they're like, where we got to find this strip club and investigate it. And this is where Vincent, our guy who can't work in the regular workforce because he's so crazy, he's just like, well, I happen to go to this strip club all the time. It's called the Landing Strip. It was just like a hilarious joke where he like knows all about it for some reason.
Yeah, and they're all like, isn't that hilarious? This guy goes to a strip club. But it's either here or later on where they're having, this is just such an aside, they're having a scene where they're all talking around a table and...
Oh, they're eating bagels?
They're eating bagels, and there's two comments about it. One is the only reason they're eating the bagels, I think, is so that the one actor, they mentioned something circular is seen in the dream, and so that Vincent, the actor, can show the bagel to like the viewer and be like, circle. So you know what I mean? But I don't know why they would have like 45 bagels on the table like while they're having a meeting. But then they have this other line where Ben goes, I don't know how you people can eat those. And then Vincent goes, you people?
Yeah, it's feeding off of an earlier scene that I didn't bring up because it's so pointless, but there's an earlier scene when they first go into the dream where Vincent's reading a book.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are you reading that book? It's like, oh, it's Steve's favorite book. It's about ethics in the Jewish religion. And they're all like, but Steve wasn't Jewish. And he's like, I know. And I'm like, what is it? And then that leads into a bagel. Like, I don't know where they were going with this. They're like going down a path about like Jewish spirituality, but they just don't go anywhere with it.
Yeah. So it just comes off like, but why are you making this? I'm like, am I supposed to think that Ben's like anti-Semitic? Is that the joke?
I mean, I think the joke is he said you people and he's a black man.
Oh,
isn't that funny?
Yeah. Anyways, I don't even know why we're talking about it. It's just
bad. It's just a bad show.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't lead into anything, and it's forgotten about after like this. Like the first 10 minutes get these weird jokes that don't make any sense and are like like toying to a line where you're like, are they getting racist now?
Yeah, and we the less we mention about Nathan, the better, because any scenes he's in, he's just being a jerk.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll get back to the plot. So as I said, Alan has been arrested for the murder of this woman. They've discovered where the strip club is, so they're like, we better go there. And despite the fact they just arrested Alan, Kate is able to call the police, have him released from prison to come with her to the strip club with no escort.
Yeah, just because
that's what they can do. They go there. The man working the bar is just like, yeah, I know Kimberly. She's great. She packs the house when she comes in, but I haven't seen her in a couple days. And they're like, can we go check out her? I guess she has a little mail cubby in the back room. So they go into the back room.
It's where the strippers get their mail.
Yeah. In her mail cubby is a card for the Morpheus Institute. And they're like, that's weird. And at that exact moment, Detective Fusco busts into the room and is like, it's proof. He murdered her. And I'm like, what's happening?
No. Yeah. So in their world, she thought because Kate and him were clearly investigating on their own that was evidence of murder, I guess.
I don't know, because how else should we get the business card if Alan didn't give her the business card to it's all tenuous, and like the fact that Detective Fusco was just waiting outside the room to bust in and be like, aha, the evidence I needed.
And there's a lot of like it's supposed to be this simmering sort of conflict between Kate and Nathan Bradford, the whole time, because Bradford, because they're on both sides, but it's like it doesn't really work.
Well, it's just that he's now rearrested for murder, and Dr. Bradford's like, that's it, I'm tired of you defending this nerd, you're off the team, you're benched, no more dreams for you today.
Yeah.
Which at this point I was like, okay, well, that's the end of this case. Bradford says no more. But what happens is Bradford and Costigan now just go into Alan's dreams, who apparently never has to go back to the police station despite having been charged with murder.
Yeah. I mean, none of it makes any sense.
This time they're back in that strip club. That Raoul guy who's always been sitting in the background's there, and they're like, hey, that guy's been here a lot. Let's go talk to this Raoul character and see what his deal is. And when they start trying to talk to him, they notice the dream starts to take a different tone. Alan goes up in the dream to talk to Kimberly, but instead of going backstage, Kimberly opens her mouth and a giant worm flows out of her mouth, impales Alan, and then Raoul stands up, pulling an axe out of nowhere and cuts the worm in half.
And as happens with every person, as you mentioned, he essentially goes into cardiac arrest.
Yes, this immediately puts Alan into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
You can't go into a dream with these people and not potentially die.
There's one little interesting point, though, or maybe it's not that interesting, is they do mention, apropos of nothing, I think it's Nathan. Nathan's like, perspective seems different here, even though he hasn't been in the dream before. And he goes, I think it might be someone else's perspective of a dream. And I thought, what? How would you notice that at all? But it's because it's a plot point for later.
It's true. Oh, and actually, you know what? This isn't the period of time where Alan has his cardiac arrest. Apparently it happens later, because what happens here is they come out and Alan's like, I don't know who Raoul is either. These are all strangers to me in my dreams. But they send him home that night, which I guess he's not he goes home that night. He's a murder suspect who goes home, and when he gets home, he receives a fax from Raoul, which
That's
he immediately
right. Yeah.
The fax he receives, he then faxes to Kate. And basically the fax just says, I'm here to save you from Kimberly. Apropos to nothing. But Raoul faxed his fax on letterhead from his body shop. So the entire Morpheus team, in the middle of the night, drives out to Raoul's body shop to confront Raoul about, like, how do you fit into these dreams? And he won't let them in his body shop. He, like, cracks the door open and sticks his head out. He's just like, I can't help you. I'm here to save Alan from his dream problems or whatever. Like, he's basically, there's this implication that Raoul is involved because he wants to protect Alan from something. And then he slams the door on Kate, Bradford, and Costigan. And they're like, well, let's call Dr. Fusco up and have her run a background check on this Raoul character for us, because we are above the law, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's fast.
It's fast. And basically, Fusco gets back to them. She's like, this is crazy. I did a background check on Raoul. He has the same birthday as Kimberly. And they're like, well, you know what that means? If both the psychic dreaming people in Alan's dream have the same birthday, that means something happened to Alan on that exact day in his life.
Yeah, and you're like, okay. And I think it's July 4th, 1970.
Something happened to him that day. So they grab Alan, they put him back into the dreamscape. And I guess this time I don't even know how, but they're like, go to this day in your dreams. Go to this exact day in your dreams, because that's where they are. They don't tell us that. We're just suddenly at that exact day.
That's the thing. It's like they need to go to the dream that's going to give the viewer the information as to what's been happening. But in this world, why do they know that? It's not clear, and there's no indication of that. Like, why didn't they just do that from beginning? Well, I guess because they've just got this information about 1970, but like, if you said just go back to 1970, would you know how to do that in your dream? Like, it doesn't make sense, because that's not a dream he had before.
They haven't implied so far that in the dreamscape they can have you travel back to any date of your history.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, also, dreams and memories aren't the same thing, but they're interchanging them as if they are.
Yes, I know. And so basically they go back to this moment in his childhood, and throughout the episode, Kate has been convinced that the fact that there's a stripper in his dream means his mother was a stripper. And even though Alan, every time, is like, I don't think she was. And she's like, oh, yeah, if it's in your dream, your mom was a stripper. And he just keeps saying, he's like, I don't know if that's true. And they never prove it is true.
She just went to the Freudian school of psychology, so everything is about his mother.
But in the dream now, he's with his mother, who died at some point. They've never been able to track, like, they've been trying to have Fusco track down what happened to his mother, but they haven't had any luck doing that. They suspect maybe she died of some sort of strangulation, or perhaps like emphysema or something, because of the strangulation themes. But now in this dream of his childhood past, he's a little boy in the back of a car. His mom is being played by Kimberly, and his mom has basically driven them into a garage, and she's going to carbon monoxide poison them both to death. So this is, I guess, what happened to his mother is she tried to kill them both via carbon monoxide. Before she can, Raoul, representing, I guess, whoever saved Alan as a child from this terrible death in this carbon monoxide, he busts in and attempts to stop the mother from committing suicide / killing her son. The mother has a knife, so she stabs Raoul to death, and then she also just drops dead from carbon monoxide poisoning. And then I believe this is where he has his heart attack and flatlines in the sleep pod. So they drag him off to the hospital, and as he's recovering from his near-death experience, they announce the resolution to the case based on what they just saw. Mm-hmm. And did you understand any of what was about to happen from what we had seen coming from here?
No, not at all.
Because this came out of left field like a fucking freight train.
I mean, structurally, I think it's the similar as the first episode, where it's like the episode's ending 10 minutes early and you know there's something not right, but it doesn't make any sense what they're doing in the show.
Well, their explanation for what's happened is they announce at his bedside, it's just like, we've solved the whole case, Alan has multiple personalities. He is both Kimberly and Raoul, and they're able to prove it because they test his blood against the saliva found at the murder scene, and it's the same DNA. So essentially, these personalities popped up when he was a child because his mom tried to kill him and some dude saved him, and now he's created a Kimberly character and the Savior character who all inhabit his dreams. But not only that, he has lived 3 separate lives where he is a body shop owner who has enough information to get, like, you can do a background check on. Kimberly, who has an apartment, does actual stripping at the strip club, and he's living 3 separate lives as these 3 separate people.
So that's the part I didn't get. So is he stripping?
So that's the thing. There's a bar man at the strip club who is like, I know Kimberly. She comes here all the time. She packs the house. So he is going in and stripping as a woman?
Yeah, I see. That's what I didn't understand, because I also thought when they first went to meet Raoul, I thought it was that Raoul actor. So, like, but it's him? You wouldn't see the answer to this problem coming because the answer doesn't make any sense from what they've built before.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It doesn't make sense. It's still, like, even knowing it, it doesn't add up. Like, there's no world where he could have run these 3 lives he basically would have had to have IDs made up for them. Like, they're fully functioning living people with apartments and addresses, and the police can look into their backgrounds.
I mean, that's the thing, is like when the police showed up because they thought there was a murder because they found saliva, you think right away they would have said, oh wait, it's the guy we're looking for, who sometimes perhaps, I don't want to be insensitive here, but maybe sometimes cross dresses, or maybe it's not even to that extent. Maybe it's just everything is under Kimberly's name, but he's still living his life as a man. I don't know. It's not clear, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, and the man who is the bartender at the strip club looks at Alan as he stands there, does not recognize him.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You're right.
He has seen Alan strip before.
It's such a mess. This show, if there's one consistent element throughout, it's that every script feels like it got put through some sort of approval process that changed enough things that it makes it not make sense anymore, and no one went back to fix the dangling thread. So every episode you're like, wait a minute, none of this works.
I am doubling down now on a theory I had earlier, but there's no other explanation for the show now. This entire show takes place inside of a dream.
You know what? It would make the show a lot better.
Because it's the only way anything that happens on the show could make any sense, because it doesn't, like, there's no logic. It has a dream logic to the waking world. Like, nothing adds up ever. So this show just has to all take place in a dream. That's the only thing that makes sense.
It does answer why Ray Weiss is there. You find out that, yeah, it's just one big dream.
This has all just been Bradford's dream.
Yeah.
It's none of this is real. Anyway, so that's what they announced is the solution to Alan's problem. And there's still a bit more time left, so we end up having to see a bunch more stuff. But essentially, somehow, the Morpheus Institute is granted complete custody of Alan for study and treatment. Okay, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Fine. They bring him back to their hotel/office, and they're like, well, he's pretty sleepy. Let's put him in bed, and, like, we'll just take turns, like, watching him.
Yeah.
And Kate falls asleep immediately, and Alan escapes within 30 seconds of them bringing him back to the...
It's so you can have a little bit of action at the end of the episode. So it's like he then goes back to the original scene of the crime, that is his mother trying to kill herself and him, so that he has now decided he wants to kill himself in that method for some reason. But Kate, because as we've learned, Kate has some sort of empathy for him, or feels bad for him. She's going to try to talk him down eventually, and you get a long scene of like her and him kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, he's able to, I don't know how he knows where the garage his mother tried to kill them is, but it happens to be in the same town. Kate's able to follow him there. The homeowner who owns this garage sees them go in and it's like, uh-oh, I better call the police about this.
Yeah, and this guy looked a little bit like William Shatner does now.
So, like, she's in there trying to talk him down from carbon monoxidizing himself to death again. The police show up, and the homeowner's like, yeah, there's just a bunch of junk in the garage, like that loaded shotgun I found.
Yeah, so it becomes a thing of like, it seems like he has her hostage. She's sort of trying to talk him down while they're in the closed garage where the gas is still running, so they're slowly getting poisoned.
He doesn't want the shotgun he's got under his chin, which we hadn't seen before.
For some reason now, like, all the police show up and the dream people for some reason.
Yeah, it's insane. And essentially, basically, Kate eventually talks him down from killing himself. He's clearly far more, like, insane than ever, but Kate kind of talks him down by being like, listen, yes, you've discovered you have multiple personalities that you didn't know about before. But look at it this way. Now that you know, you can create any personality you want for yourself. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Isn't that a fun thing?
I don't know if that's how it works, but sure.
And we cut to here, Alan. He's been institutionalized at a psychiatric hospital because he's quite clearly has some problems. And when the nurse comes to give him his medication, they're like, Alan, take your medication. And Alan won't respond. The nurse is like, clearly tired. She's had to deal with this a lot. She's like, all right, Alan, what about Kate? Does Kate want to take her medication? And now Alan has Naomi Watts' voice. Not just like he's doing an impression. Naomi Watts is now doing Alan's dialogue. So he's talking in Kate's voice. He's just in an Australian accent as Kate is just like, yes, I'll take my medicine now. That's great. I'm now Kate. I've become Kate.
And she happens to be there to see it. And you get a lot of shots of her just being horrified that he's taken her personality.
That's what's crazy is Kate happens to walk in at this exact moment to the psychiatric hospital to see that Alan has stolen her personality. And basically, she didn't quite do this, but it's almost like she does the Rodney Dangerfield pull on her collar. She's like, ooh.
You're right. It's very, very close. It's just this hair of like, she has to give the audience like, can you believe this?
So in this world, this Alan character is able to run all these separate lives, and even now is able to become Kate to the extent that he has her exact voice. Like, what is happening?
If you follow that logic along and what we've learned this episode, not only can he do her voice, he theoretically should be able to show up to the Dream Institute.
They wouldn't notice.
And they wouldn't notice. It would just be like, I guess Kate's here.
That would be great if a few episodes later they realize like they've been going around these cases and they're like, and Kate shows up, she's like, I was abducted, and it's been Alan the whole time. And they turn around and it's just Alan in a wig.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I'll give you a quick side note here because we talked about the funeral for Steve, but there's kind of this like weird subplot where Kate keeps having dreams about Steve, and he's like, his eyes are all black, and he's a dead body, and he turns into a dog or something, and like they just keep going back to this well of there's like this indigenous person who's like a dream Sherpa for her, which is really stupid.
There's this thing that you mentioned, they keep going to it as if the viewers care. It's like there's no one interested in this, guys. No one. If this is your serialized element to keep people watching, no one cares.
But I don't know what they're trying to do with it either. Like Steve doesn't give her a message. Steve doesn't imply anything by doing this. She's just having a dream of Steve.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's clearly planting something for future episodes, but there's no payoff. And I bet in the short order of episodes we get, there won't be a payoff.
And Bradford has a quick dream about Steve, but Steve's just there to tell him to stop being so mean to Kate.
Which, to be fair, true.
Fair enough, absolutely. And that's just it. They're starting to see this idea of something larger, some sort of like larger supernatural conspiracy. But I cannot believe this is episode 6 of this series, and they've just like what have I been watching this show for up until now?
It is funny that you have a show that seems on paper to be so straightforward, but the execution of it is so convoluted, and you can see every episode they're trying to figure out what works, and little bits might land or little ideas might work, but you don't even get the sense at this episode that like things have coalesced in any real way.
No. And I mean, the primary core of this episode was like psychic dreaming, like people sharing a dream, but the conclusion is that never happened.
Right, yeah. So Nathan was right to be mean to her.
Yeah, Nathan was right to begin with.
Yeah.
Anyway, that wraps up that episode. I don't know. Do you have any final notes that we didn't cover?
I think we pretty much said all there is to say about this.
Well, let's get into a rating for these episodes. What do you want to give Eye of the Beholder, the kidney transplant episode?
I'm going to give it a 3 to 10, and at least one of those points has to be for how ludicrous an idea it is that a transplant would have you share someone's dreams. I just thought it was so out there. I don't think it was executed well at all, and I think it had all the problems and then some of the previous episodes. So I can't go higher than a 3.
Fair enough. It's a pretty bad episode. It very perfunctory a lot of parts. I love the part where that gory scene where the woman crawls over that man's
that is good
wound. So that's a great scene. I think I'm gonna go with a 2. I think I'm gonna go 2.5 maybe. That might be generous, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then a matter of facts.
Okay, so here's the thing. I actually think in a lot of ways this is a worse episode. I'm going to give it a higher score, though, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm just going to be fair. It gets 1 point for the title Matter of Facts, 1 point for the snake woman, or the snake that comes out of that woman's mouth. You get 1 point for the strip club be called Landing Strip, And I'm giving it 1 point for that stupid voice at the end because it was so stupid. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10, even though I think this episode should be really like, I don't know, minus 50.
Here's what I would say about this episode too. This is a bad episode. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Everything that comes at you is like out of left field, like you're getting hit by a truck that doesn't make sense. But it is, if there's a best episode of this show, it's this one because of how insane, like truly unhinged. Yeah. The writer sat down and thought this was a good idea. Like every turn is out of left field. Nothing makes sense.
It's like they took 10 different chapters from 10 different books and then jammed them together and said, it'll work.
Yeah. And I was along for the ride because I was just like, this is out of control, insane, this episode. I'm going to give it just a 5 because I think it's the best I can do. But like this to me right now, I'm like, if you're ever going to watch one episode of this to see what's wrong with it, this is the episode because at least you like it's insanity.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Jordan. We're at the point where we can actually check the escape pod computer now, the continued drag computer, because I think this might be on the verge of escape pod time.
I think we're probably close.
Let me pull it up and I'll toss our scores in.
If we don't, your 5 might have saved it.
I mean, it's true. That 5 is like close, but I don't think it's enough to save anything. All right, Jordan. I've got the numbers here. Do you want to know what the current series average for Sleepwalkers is? 6 episodes in?
I do. And sorry, we should mention the threshold for us taking the escape pod is a 5, correct?
Yeah, if it drops below 5, we're out it. We're escaping out of here.
Drum roll.
Yeah, current series average is 3.72.
Oh, man. That's it. We're going.
We're going. So next week, we're going to come back. We're going to watch the very last episode of Sleepwalkers, see where this is all headed. Yeah. If it all wraps up in episode 8. Which I think might be one of those episodes that truly never aired, that no one ever saw before.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'd be very curious to see where this is headed.
Wow, that's a low score, huh?
This show is crazy bad. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. And we said this before. I was kind of excited to watch this because I thought it had the makings of sort of a cult classic that maybe just was not seen, like it just wasn't given its due. It definitely, that's not the case. Well, this is just, it's the reason it's gone is because it's so bad no one wants to pretend. Everyone wants to pretend it never existed.
Yeah, on paper, like with that cast, you'd think you think something attracted them to the project, but I couldn't tell you what it was. But yeah, that wraps it up for this episode. Join us next week. We'll finish this off, I guess. In the meantime, of course, you can get a hold of us at continuumdrag@gmail.com if you have any dreams you want us to interpret for you. We're happy to look at what your dreams mean, how they're affecting your lives, the people you murder in them.
Well, I'm telling you, if you murder someone in your dream, you are as guilty as sin.
Yeah, we're going to turn you into the police. If you email us and tell us you murdered someone in your dream, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
And of course, on Instagram and Twitter, we'll have some clips from these episodes. Great clips. It's going to be some crazy clips.
Yeah. Snake women.
The handle there is @continuumdrag. But that wraps it up. So, listener, thank you for joining us. And Jordan, I will see you next week.
I will see you then. Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rex Seidler. Produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.